Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 6th of February, 2024. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, sorry for not mentioning this earlier, but I think there's going to be a rug fuel tomorrow, so I'm giving you advance notice here, and that's because I'm attending a meetup in Melbourne that goes from 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m, as you can see here. So if you are in Melbourne, you can basically go sign up to this meetup. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, and hopefully I'll see you there. But yeah, sorry for not giving more notice here, but definitely looks like I won't be able to do a refuel tomorrow. But of course, I'll be back on Thursday to make up for it, and Friday as well. Like, those episodes should be fine and should be done as per normal. So just giving you guys a heads up there. But as I said, you can find the link to that in the YouTube description below if you want to attend. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you are based in Melbourne or how many of you are actually in Melbourne right now, but if you are, come down. You know, I'd love to meet you. I always love meeting people who listen and watch the refuel. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Alright, so you'll notice that I have a few Farcaster tabs open today, actually. So today was actually, I think, the first day that I've used Farcaster more than Twitter. So I wasn't monitoring it, like, literally. I wasn't kind of looking and going, oh, okay, how long have I been on Farcaster? How long have I been on Twitter? But I think just from kind of the vibe that I spent much more time on Farcaster than Twitter today. And it's the first time that's happened for me. Obviously, Twitter has been a huge part of my life for a long time now. It's where I go to get all my updates, and you guys know that the refuel has been predominantly Twitter, and there is still a bunch of Twitter links here, of course, because most of the stuff still happens on Twitter. But I do feel a big shift to Farcaster recently, as I discussed yesterday. So that's why you're going to be seeing more and more Farcaster tabs up here, because I'm just naturally spending more time on there. And as you guys know, there's a Daily Gwei channel that you can go check out as well. I'm going to be spending more time in there. I'm thinking about doing an AMA in there soon, so you can ask me any question you want about Ethereum, and I'll do my best to answer it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to answer everything. I'm not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to Ethereum stuff, but I will, potentially tag people in there. Maybe they want to answer the question. People are always happy to help here. So that'll probably happen sometime soon in the future. But yeah, the first thing that I've got here from Farcaster is an update from Tim Byko today. So he's updated the Prague/Electra planning diagram that I've highlighted for you guys before. So this is the Petra upgrade that is probably coming at the end of the year here, and he's also moved all the vertical tree related stuff to the next fork, which is Osaka, which is happening next year. So not in the Petra upgrade, but in the fork after Petra, which is currently named Osaka, which should happen next year. So this diagram is a bit hard to see on my screen, but essentially we've got confirmation about which EIPs are going to be going into Prague/Electra. So there's one on the execution layer so far, which is the BLS precompile stuff. There's two on the execution and consensus layers. That's being supply validated deposits on chain and execution layer triggerable exits. I think, EIP 7002, the execution layer triggerable exits, is the one that I'm most excited for out of those. And then on the consensus layer, there is EIP 7549, which is the committee index outside attestation, I think. As I said, it's a bit hard to read this. It's a bit blurry on my screen. But in terms of what's, I guess, user-facing, I believe EIP 7002, because as a user, you'd be able to exit your stake trustlessly via the execution layer, rather than having to go through the consensus layer and go through the validators to basically process your withdrawal there. And then there's a long list below it of basically all the proposed EIPs still. So these EIPs are still in flux. As I've discussed before, there's two here that I believe are the major EIPs that are kind of currently being, or maybe three, I should say, that are being worked on. The one for inclusion lists, the one for increasing the max effective balance, and peer DAS. As I've said before, I do think the max effective balance increase will, or EIP will get pushed out to next year if we prioritize the censorship resistant stuff with inclusion list and peer DAS, but it's still in flux. And there is also confirmed EIPs for Osaka already, which are the vertical tree related EIPs there. But because this diagram is blurry on my screen, I'm going to link this in the YouTube description below. You can go check this out for yourself, but it's becoming clearer and clearer what's going to be included in Petra here. Now, in saying all of that, the ones that have already been included can be removed, guys. Like, EIPs can be removed right up until even like a couple of months before it goes live on, I would say maybe 3 months or so before it goes live on mainnet. And in the worst case scenario, if the EIP, if the core devs aren't comfortable with it going forward, it can be removed, even sooner than that, even closer to the mainnet date. than that as well. But yeah, a lot of stuff is still in flux for Petra. We know that Denkun is set in stone. There's no more changes happening there. They've got the last testnet fork happening this week. I mean, that's tomorrow, 7th. It's already creeped up on me. So yeah, it's tomorrow actually that that Holsky is forking, and then we're going to get a mainnet date the date after. So Denkun is basically here already, and that's why Petra is kind of in focus, as well as Osaka, because Petra and Osaka, like, they're kind of, I guess, like, not working on them together, but it's like they're bouncing stuff off. Like, obviously the Vertical Tree stuff was originally slated to maybe be included in Petra, but then they said, hey, you know, it's too much work, let's just punt that to Osaka because we want to get these other things into Petra. So you're going to see that happening here. But yeah, there are a lot of EIPs still proposed here, guys, and it looks like the EOF set of EIPs will probably be included as well. But other than that, yeah, the rest of the stuff is in flux, and we'll have to just see how that shakes out. But of course, I'll keep you guys updated. But as I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so EigenLayer has reopened deposits today. So from now until Feb 9th, you can dive back into the world of LST restaking. All pools are fully uncapped, featuring both the existing pools and welcoming new partners such as Frax, Liquid Collective, and Mantle here. So if you do have LSTs from any of those ecosystems, you can now participate, as well as participating using normal LSTs that are already supported, such as STETH and RETH here. And there is actually a cap per LST. I believe that if the LST has over 33% of the total kind of market share, it actually stops accruing points, or at least kind of, maybe it doesn't stop accruing points, but it accrues points at a lower rate than other LSTs do. And obviously that's to encourage distribution and kind of, you know, a smoother distribution of LSTs on the platform. And as I said, it is uncapped fully until Feb 9th. So they're not doing a TVL cap, and now they're doing a time cap, and it's only 3 or 4 days here, so not very long. But yeah, if you're interested in that, you can go check that one out. Now, I do want to clarify something about Puffer Finance, because I saw a little bit of criticism today on Reddit actually, and in the Discord channel. So Puffer launched a few days ago. You guys know I'm an advisor to Puffer here, and I said I did explain to you guys how you could deposit STETH into the Puffer platform. And then that STETH is going to get vampired, and then it's going to be running on the Puffer system, and then it'll be restaked as kind of native ETH as part of the Puffer system with EigenLayer. Now, of course, today the STETH that was deposited into Puffer was actually restaked with EigenLayer to basically, I guess, like farm the points, right? Because that's essentially what these things do. And people said, well, this seems wrong, because the marketing for Puffer has basically been explaining that if you deposit your STETH with Puffer, it will be withdrawn from Lido and vampired, and you'll be helping the decentralization of Ethereum. And look, to be honest, guys, like, I don't just necessarily disagree with that. I think that the messaging has definitely been that, and you know, there's no I guess, like, sugarcoating it. It was, it can be construed as being misleading there. But what I wanted to clarify is that the Puffer system is going to be live relatively soon. I don't know exactly when it's going to be live, but I obviously, being an advisor, I've been talking, and I know that it's going to be live relatively soon. I can't give any hard dates on this, and I also suggested to the team that they should put some kind of communications out there explaining to people, hey, you know, this is actually how it's going to go, you know, and basically putting the STETH into Lido for now. Into EigenLayer for now, in order to farm points for the people that deposited, so that they don't feel slighted. So I believe it's a miscommunication error. I take it from me. Like, I'm vouching for the team here. I am an advisor to them, so obviously I'm you know, you could say I'm a bit biased here, but I know the team. They're very genuine. They're not trying to, like, do anything dodgy or anything like that. But obviously the messaging could have been better there. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys whether you want to, you know, keep staking with them or not. Like, no one's forcing you to, and I believe I told you guys that there's no obligation to go with them or any of these kind of protocols here. You go with who you want. Don't just go with it because you know, someone recommends you to put money in there. I will never recommend you to put money into anything. Like, I will suggest, hey, this is an opportunity, but I won't say, hey, you need to put money into this instead of that. That's just something I'll never do. And I've also been very clear about the risks as well with these things. There's always risks involved here, guys. So make sure you understand that. But yeah, I will agree that the messaging with Puffer Finance could have been better. And I've kind of passed that feedback onto the team. So I'm curious to see what they kind of like put out. And hopefully they can quell those worries that people have here. Because I know for a fact that, yes, it is going to be vampired. And it is going to be, so the STETH is going to be vampired. It is going to be withdrawn from Lido and then restaked as part of the Puffer system, which will then obviously be part of EigenLayer as well, because they'll restake it, similar to what EtherFi and Swell are already doing, basically. So yeah, it's just that they launched without that other stuff being ready, because obviously the race is very hot right now to get, and as a project, you look at that and you're like, okay, well, let's do a launch, and I don't think they expected it to get as big as it did. I think the last time I checked, they were at 450 million TVL, like almost 2% of all STE, something crazy, and no team expects that, guys. Like when you work on something, you don't realize that. These things can get really crazy because, and this isn't just, pertinent to Puffer, it's every project out there. I've been part of many projects over the years, and every single time it's been the same thing where the team vastly underestimates the demand. And the reason why they do this is, one, when you're making the sausage, how the sausage is made, you become bearish on the sausage. And I'm not going to say that you're bearish on your project, but you're in the weeds, you're working on it constantly, and you kind of think to yourself, wow, okay, there's so much going on here. I've been working on it for so long. I'm excited about it, but like, why would anyone else be excited about it? If you've ever been part of a startup, especially as a founder, you know exactly what this feeling is. You're constantly doubting yourself. You're constantly doubting what you're doing. That's just the nature of things. You have so much stress and anxiety about it. That's just the nature of things. So it happens with every project. And as I said, I've been through multiple project launches, and every single time the team and the founders, they've always been surprised by the growth of these things, because it can happen very, very quickly, especially in crypto. With the nature of the way crypto works and the nature of the fact that there's a lot of money involved, these things can happen extremely quickly and catch you off guard here. But what really matters is how the team responds to that, how the team kind of aligns their long-term vision on things, and how they play things out, and basically communicating with their community and learning from potential mistakes that they've made, and things like that. That's what separates the good teams from the bad teams, in my opinion. So yeah, that's just a little clarity that I wanted to give there. But as I said, as usual, if you're depositing funds into any of this stuff, please just realize that it is risky, guys. No matter what project you're depositing funds into, it is always risky, especially new ones, because there is a risk of smart contract bugs. So don't put in funds that you expect to like 100% not lose, because there is that small chance that you could lose it due to a bug or an exploit or anything like that. And I just want to put that out there. And it's not to try and scare anyone, but guys, like, there are so many ways to lose money in crypto. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, outside of the scams and the phishes and that kind of like the hacks and things like that, there are just so many other ways to lose money in crypto. Investing in the wrong thing, and then getting the liquidity getting pulled, and you're getting rugged, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you need to be aware of that. You really need to be critically aware of that, because it's so easy. I mean, just a few months ago, you guys know the story. I got phished. I mean, me, the person who is always hyper aware of everything, I got phished in the absolute dumbest way possible. And that's simply because I lulled myself into a false sense of security, because I thought, I hadn't been phished in a while, I'm okay, I don't have to worry about this. When in reality, you always have to be vigilant about these things. And there are better and better tools coming online. Like, I've been suggesting the Rabby wallet over MetaMask to basically everyone, because pretty much every time that I've seen someone get scammed or phished, Rabby would have caught it. And then, Rabby gives you so many warnings about these things, and it has like an evolving system where it basically monitors contracts and says, hey, this contract is actually not the same one that it's claiming to be, like stuff like that. That's how we basically solve the security issues for people, or at least for the most part. But the weakest link is always the human. So removing the human element as much as possible is obviously the goal here, but there's always going to be that human element involved there. So just keep that in mind. Stay vigilant, guys, and just have fun, make some money, or lose some money, no matter, depending on how you play it here, but just make sure that you're staying safe while doing so. Alright, so Obol Labs has a major announcement today. So Obol DV clusters in the Lido simple DVT testnet on Holsky have met performance requirements to move forward with the Ethereum mainnet deployment, which means that Obol's DVT tech will be integrated into Lido quite soon, which is exciting, obviously, because Lido is still the biggest staking service provider by far. And I've explained to you guys all the benefits of DVT in the past, from increasing efficiency and effectiveness of validators, while also increasing redundancy and increasing decentralization, which is obviously the the holy grail here. So you can read this kind of full report of all the testing that they've been doing, and essentially what they've been monitoring and how it's all been playing around with Lido, their key learnings and recommendations, and so on and so forth, and then what's next. So basically, I think the next round is expected to commence in the next 1 to 2 months. And feel free to fill out this form if you're interested in participating. This is there's more test nets happening, obviously, but given that it's already met that kind of mainnet criteria that they were looking for, the test nets are probably just to kind of iron out some stuff, cross some T's, dot some I's, as we like to see. Obviously, you can never have enough test nets, honestly, guys. I mean, I remember the amount of test nets and dev nets and shadow forks that we had for the merge. I mean, I think we got to the point where we were like, okay, that's probably enough. Let's just do this thing on mainnet because we had just tested it so much. But that's the thing, you have to do that, like especially when you're dealing with billions, tens of billions of dollars worth of value. You have to test it as much as possible and make sure and nothing's going to go wrong when you do a mainnet deployment here. But yeah, very, very exciting times for both Obol and Lido. Should disclose here, I'm an early investor in Obol. I mean, that's one of my earliest investments, actually. It must be a very long time since I invested in them. I actually remember kind of investing in them, and I'm just checking kind of my sheet here. So yeah, it was the 3rd of October 2021. So it's been quite a while. They've been building this stuff for ages. Like a lot of these projects have been building for years, and just recently they're starting to get more and more traction. So, and you guys know I've been part of one of the first Obol DVT clusters on mainnet. Still part of that. It's on my solo staking box. It's been working fine. Been loving all the communication that I've had with the team there. They're always happy to help and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway, you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. Alright, so for those of you who don't know, there is currently an animation being developed in conjunction with the team from Nounsdale and Line Studio, which is actually making the animation. So this is a 1-minute animation all about Ethereum, L2s, and EIP 4844. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up today is because Trent Van Epps shared on Farcaster an update on some of the characters that are going to be featured in the animation. So you can see here some characters, Starknet, Polygon, and I believe Scroll, and ZK Sync here. So the animation, as I said, is a celebration of all these things, all these Ethereum things, and the short is also going to be released as an NFT at the Denkun upgrade, with all proceeds going to the Protocol Guild. So this is one of the things that I'm really, really excited about, because it's something different, guys. Like, it's something different. It's using a professional animation studio to get this done. It's funded by Nounsdale, which is really cool. And it's basically spreading the word about Ethereum L2s and donating the proceeds from the NFT mint here to the Protocol Guild, which, I mean, like, what can I say? You guys know my opinions on public goods and especially the Protocol Guild, so it's all positive here. But Trent also has a thread here basically going through some of the other characters that have already been showcased, such as Arbitrum and Optimism. So if you want to see all of that, you can go check that out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, I've got some goodies for you guys. So a few things that were all posted on the same day, funny enough. So basically, there's been a lot of talk, obviously, over the last few months around liquidity fragmentation with Layer 2 specifically. Now, I've talked a lot about this in the past, and my general kind of feeling on this is that it's a very overblown issue in the short term, and very kind of like misunderstood in the long term, because there are lots of solutions to these issues, and I believe that those solutions are going to be live, over the longer term. So people kind of look at the short term and it's like, oh, how are we ever going to fix this? Well, as I said, I've got some goodies for you. So Justin Drake did a podcast today with Bankless that you should definitely go check out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but he talks all about fragmentation within the L2s and how we can actually solve this and all the different ways we can do that. And he's also linked to a Google Doc here with all of his notes as well, so you can go check that out. So that's the first thing. Then we have a blog post from Brendan Farmer, who is the co-founder at Polygon, talking about how Polygon is actually tackling this fragmentation. And I think that he doesn't necessarily disagree with Justin Drake, but he offers an alternative solution here in aggregation rather than like shared sequencing and maybe like based sequencing and stuff like that. So you should definitely go give that one a read. And then finally, there's also a post from Tim Robinson here, who is the head of crypto research at Blue Yard, which is a crypto VC, talking about this kind of issue of liquidity fragmentation as well. So I know I said that there's going to be no refuel tomorrow, but hey, you can refuel yourself by listening to that podcast from Justin Drake and reading these two blog posts from Brendan and Tim. They're going to give you probably the most up-to-date overview of how this issue is going to get solved. Like, obviously, I really kind of talk about it at a high level, and I do say that, hey, these are the solutions that are coming. But these actually go into detail about how these solutions are going to solve these issues. So if you're at all interested in that, go check this out, because I do think it's something that is going to be, I guess, like a FUD vehicle, so to speak, for a little while. But the thing is that like it really is a short-term issue, guys. And honestly, even in the short term, I don't consider it to be a huge issue for the reasons I've discussed before, such as the fact that we already see that liquidity kind of tends to pool in in one or two ecosystems, and like as a power law effect, as you can see from Arbitrum and Optimism being the top two here, and the Polygon POS chain, which isn't technically at a layer 2, but still has a lot of liquidity there. So there's that aspect to it, but there's also the aspect of like solutions come when problems arise, and the problems are kind of like bad enough that people want there to be solutions, and they're willing to pay for those solutions in some way or another. And that's exactly what's happening here. So as I said, I'll link all of these in the YouTube description below for you to go check out. Highly recommend reading and watching all of it to get up to speed. And honestly, if you want to discuss any of this stuff, Tim is very active in the Daily Gwei Discord channel, so you can just ping him in there. He'll be happy to discuss that stuff with you. But yeah, the other, I guess Justin Drake's a very hard man to get a hold of, and Brendan, I'm not sure where he's active, but generally you can get a lot of great conversations in the Daily Gwei Discord channel around this, but also on Twitter and Farcaster, of course. I'm sure you can kind of talk to people there. But yeah, these blog posts and that podcast, definitely highly recommend going and viewing and kind of reading it. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, interesting chart that I came across on Farcaster today, tweeted out or casted out by JG here, who says, wow, crazy chart displaying base dominance the last few weeks for total transactions by chain. Farcaster users are now conducting 2 out of every 3 transactions using base. And I did mention to you guys that basically, Base has become essentially the chain of choice, obviously, for social related things. It was first for Friend Tech, but now for Farcaster, and it's really carved out a nice little niche for now, but hopefully growing beyond the niche for itself there. Because I think that Base is behind in terms of like DeFi activity. I think Arbitrum 1 and OP mainnet have a lot of that activity right now. Base will keep growing there. That's not to say that they won't keep growing. They will, but they definitely have more of the kind of like social side of things than those other chains do. And obviously Base is built on Optimism's tech, but like I'm specifically talking about the OP mainnet here, which is also built on Optimism's tech, the OP stack, but is a separate network, obviously a separate kind of roll up there, or separate layer 2 there. And I know I've said before that these metrics are imperfect, but at the same time, this is a good kind of place where you can actually see the metrics match the actual activity. Because as I said, like a lot of the stuff happening on Farcaster is happening on Base, like the frame stuff, it's all happening on Base where you kind of do those interactions, and that will reflect on the Base chain, and that will reflect as transactions by chain, and you'll see that the fact that it's just skyrocketed. I mean, it's in basically purple here at the bottom of this chart. It's a Dune Analytics chart here, or graphic here, that you can see that's displaying this and what this looks like. It's usually kind of uniform across all of the layer 2s here, and this goes back to, I think, August of last year, so a good 6 months worth of data here, or a little bit more than that. But you can see that the base has been the same, but then it just spiked up because of all the Farcaster stuff recently. So just great to see, I guess, some visualized data put to, I guess, the vibes that we've all been feeling. You guys know my view on looking at different chains. It's all about the vibes, and if the vibes are good or bad, and what's kind of happening there. And it seems like the vibes are immaculate on Base right now, honestly. And by extension, the vibes in Ethereum are amazing right now. There's so much happening. I'm so glad Farcaster is getting a lot of traction. I know that a good chunk of it is speculative because people want to get involved with this frame stuff and some of the token stuff, and maybe they want to farm a potential future airdrop. But as I've said before, inherently, Farcaster is not a speculative app. Inherently, it is a social network. It is a social app, and it is something that I believe has a lot of staying power. It is not a flash in the pan. It's not something that's just going to be around as a fad. I do strongly believe that it will replace crypto Twitter for a lot of people, and then maybe it even goes on to replace or even rival Twitter for in its end state, because it's still very early days. But Twitter as it exists today is not it's X now, right? It's not the Twitter of yesteryear, so to speak. And also, if you actually care about free speech on Twitter, whatever people kind of like say on Twitter, and whatever people were happy about when Musk took over, well, then you should be a really big supporter of Farcaster, because Farcaster as a protocol is being built so that it can't censor anything. Yes, the clients themselves can hide certain content or censor certain content, but you get to choose your client. So really, you should be embracing Farcaster if that's the type of person that you are, that wants to be able to get exposed to everything without anyone moderating what you're exposed to. Farcaster is that, because you can just tap into the protocol yourself using a client that doesn't do any content moderation or anything like that, or that doesn't do any censorship or anything like that, or doesn't remove certain content for whatever reason. Or you can run your own client, build your own client for it, and maybe you can send it to other people and say, hey, use this. So that's the way kind of Farcaster is being built, and I think that once those people kind of discover this and latch onto it, it definitely can be a massive growth driver for non-crypto people. Because obviously, right now it's heavily dominated by crypto people, which is just the first set of users. But I do think that it can rival Twitter, because Twitter doesn't really have any competition, right? Like if you think about other social networks out there, they're not like Twitter. Like Reddit is very different. Facebook is extremely different, right? It's called Boomer Book for a reason. Instagram very different. Like every social network has its differences here, and it's normally very, very hard to compete because of the network effects, because of the social graph. But Farcaster is doing a really great job of tapping into the crypto native people first, who are very active on social media, especially Twitter, and getting them to come over, and then obviously the plan would be to branch out from there. So I strongly believe that Farcaster can be a nice competitor to Twitter, but it's going to take time from here. But anyway, enough ranting about Farcaster there. Last thing to get through was just a huge announcement, actually. I saved the best for last, I think. Huge announcement from ENS today. So they have partnered with GoDaddy. Now, for those of you who don't know who GoDaddy is, they are the biggest domain name registrar in the world. Like, biggest. Like, they're, you know, I know their name might be silly, but they are absolutely massive. And I think that, you know, if you've ever developed a website before or ever needed to register a domain name, you may have used GoDaddy at one point or another. That's how big they are, just even if it's not your main registrar here. So yeah, as I said, they've today announced the partnership with ENS, and they have a new section in their domain management interface called Crypto Wallet. So essentially what you can do is set your own domain name that you own to your ENS using DNSSEC, as I discussed, I believe, on last week's Refuel. So essentially, you can see here, thanks to gasless DNSSEC, users can now easily associate an Ethereum address with their DNS domain name, .com, .xyz, etc., allowing seamless integration with all applications that properly support ENS. This is a huge unlock, guys. This basically marries the Web 2 ecosystem with the Web 3 ecosystem, and this is all Ethereum. Like, ENS is all Ethereum. It literally stands for the Ethereum name service. This is one of the biggest things that has happened in Ethereum in a really long time. I haven't seen enough people talk about this, because we always talk about bringing on more and more people, you know, bringing on the mainstream, getting mass adoption. This is one of those things that brings that. The fact that they have a whole kind of section dedicated to it in their domain management interface here is absolutely massive. And you're going to see a lot of brands that maybe aren't able to own their own ENS name because it's squatted on, such as Amazon.eth, for example, or Google.eth. They can just use their DNS names now, their domain names of Google.com or Amazon.com, and link that to their Ethereum address, and voila, you have they have something on chain that they can now use for whatever purpose they would like to. So as I said, absolutely massive announcement. If you want to learn more about this and go into detail about it, I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But yeah, I mean, ENS, honestly, like one of my favorite projects still in the Ethereum ecosystem, just kicking goals and continuing to be continuing to represent Ethereum as the very best of what Ethereum has to offer here. But anyway, I think I've gushed over enough today. That's going to be it. You know, it's funny. Halfway through recording today's episode, my computer crashed. So hopefully everything's all good when I'm editing it. But if the episode's live and you're hearing this, then it was all good. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. Just a reminder that there will be no refuel tomorrow. Be back on Thursday. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all on Thursday. Thanks everyone.